Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Venusian Womb, a womb journey where dreams are seeded, identities are alchemized, and the journey inward begins.
This season, we are honoring a dream in gestation, a womb journey exploring the sacred phase between dreaming and birthing. It's about the phase where something meaningful is taking shape within you, even if you can't see it yet.
I'm Milena.
And I'm Megan.
Let's begin by taking a slow, deep breath together. Feel yourself arrive, land in your body.
This is a space to pause, to reflect, to connect, and to grow at your own pace.
We invite you to join us as we sit in conversation, share stories, and explore what it really means to be in the process of becoming.
Hello. Welcome to the Venusian Womb podcast. Another week, another Friday. And this week we have a really special guest with us here today. There's so much we could say. This connection with Steph has been so divinely orchestrated since the beginning. And that's a whole story on its own that we're not going to get into today. But the love, the admiration, the inspiration that we have towards Steph, and I'm pretty sure I see Milena nodding, so it's collective, is so grand that we couldn't help but we wanted her on this podcast so badly. And we're definitely going to want her on future episodes as well, because she has helped move so much in us in the very short time we've known her and the very few times we've met in person. And we wanted to bring her magic and her medicine on to the podcast. So Steph, I'd love to send it over to you to introduce yourself, where you are here now in this like earthly plane, and just share a little bit about yourself, whatever it is that's alive for you.
Wow. Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. I feel the love, and it's so reciprocated. It's such an honor to have crossed paths with you both and to be on this journey together, which is both magical and messy in the best of ways. So thank you to you. Thank you to the universe. So who am I? Yeah, my name's Steph. I'm the founder of the Soul's Haven. It's a wellness chalet just outside of Montreal. Here we curate restorative, heart-centered experiences and essentially invite people to just rest and realign and reconnect with what truly matters. We host events, some are mindful practices, sometimes energy, sound healing. We have rejuvenating amenities, and really just offer opportunities for an immersion so that people can kind of walk themselves back home to their hearts and to each other. And yeah, I guess my mission is to bridge the seen and the unseen to help humanity remember their true essence and inspire a genuine connection, really, through community and through authentic relating. I think that there's infinite potential in all of us, and I think we just need to, a chance to feel safe enough that we can remember it.
Thank you so much, Steph. And I mean, Megan and I, we had the honor of going to the Soul's Haven and staying there for a few days. And it was beyond any of our expectations that we had of this space. And I'm not just talking about like the actual space itself and the amenities that are there and just the nature that's around, but also just the energy of this land, the energy that has gone into curating this space. And it's so felt right when you step foot on that land. And I did just want to say that the Soul's Haven, it was definitely a space that I feel like held all of us. Like it held all of us so beautifully in just what we were meant to experience there and the things that we were meant to work through while we were there. And I'm excited to get into a little bit about just also beyond this space, just the way that Steph, the way that you hold that space and the ways that you lead within the Soul's Haven, because the medicine that you bring is unlike, it's beyond ego, which is so beautiful because I feel like you have this way of just offering such an expanded perspective. And when Megan and I came to Soul's Haven, we were going there with the intention of also seeing what creation would come through in terms of a space that we want to hold. And what we got from that was the clarity of what that creation or co-creation would even look like, as well as also just so much more perspective in terms of how to leave that experience with such a just a greater heart-centered perspective of life and just the initiations that we were going through at that time. And
Mm.
one of the things that stood out the most, at least to myself, and this is going a little bit different from, I guess, our current structure and order of how we're going to go through this conversation. But one of the things that stood out the most was just the ways, Steph, that you have this way of shifting perspective. It's this way of just and it's shifting perspective slash expanding perspective beyond the stories around circumstantially space-time, what's happening in this moment, and the stories of the ego around those circumstances. And I really just wanted to, I guess, open some space for conversation around what that process has looked like for you in your life of being able to kind of incorporate these reframes for yourself and for us when we were there.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I wasn't always a reframer. I would refrain from reframing back in the day, and ultimately, I think through the divine lessons of life and just always surrendering, I've arrived to a place where now I'm able to reframe, and I cherish reframing, and I'm able to step outside of my own stories and really look to the mirrors, to the disco ball that is life, and it's changed my life since I've started doing that. And so yeah, I mean, I guess a good place to start would be, what is, holding a mirror, and what does it mean to have to sit outside of yourself and to look at what life is reflecting back at you. It's my new
Mhm.
favorite. How are you? How are you? What is the world reflecting back to you right now? This way of just kind of taking a big deep breath in and realizing it's not personal, it's planetary.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah, and then like consciously just being able to accept that we're sovereign beings and that we get to choose how we see life, and that doesn't erase pain. It's not spiritual bypassing. It's a matter of sitting with our pain. It's a matter of looking at what reality is presenting to us, feeling into that, and then ultimately sending it love and compassion, surrendering to the divine orchestration, and
Mhm.
knowing that you're just walking home to yourself.
I'd love to propose maybe a question or how we can all go deeper because I know
Mm.
a lot of with the word surrender. For me, surrendering feels empowering. It feels like I'm giving it over, but there is a lot of people that frame that as weakness and seeing it as, oh, you're weak to surrender, or how could surrendering be powerful? And I'd be curious to get both your takes on how surrender, if it feels empowering for you as well, or if it feels something differently, and to reframe that weakness that a lot of people still cling or see surrender as weakness.
I love that. So, as a former control freak, Um,
Same.
I was coordinating. I was playing God. I was on top of everything. I was visualizing. I could see outcomes. I would sit, I would focus, I would set intention, and I would manipulate every single thing that would happen. And nothing, or not nothing, but most things would not go according to plan. And in those
Mhm.
moments, I would have to ultimately surrender or find myself at the end of what I thought was going to look like A, B, C, D, E, look back and say, oh, well, that actually worked out so perfectly and ended up being so much better that this happened this way and that happened that way and that happened that way. And wow, so beautiful. Why did I try so hard to force something rather than going with the flow? So I was then also, invited to surrender. So surrendering was happening even when I was trying to orchestrate. And so now I see power in stepping back and just surrendering from the beginning. Does that mean sitting back and doing nothing? Absolutely not. It means showing up with intention. It means putting in my best effort. It means leading from my heart. But the intention is different. It's not trying to control an outcome. It's allowing what's meant to happen, knowing that I showed up fully in the best that I could in that moment with a desire to move something forward or create in whatever way creation looks like. I mean, that could be getting together with community, that could be working on a work project, that could be a project, that could be, right? Like any task at hand, that could be cleaning the house, etc. Yeah. What about you, Melina?
So what's coming through right now also is that a big part of this process of surrender is also trusting that life is happening for you and trusting that while these stories, because the ego, regardless of how self-aware we may become, and how many beautiful mirrors we may have in our life of people that we can openly share ourselves with and receive perspective from, despite that awareness, the ego is still always going to be there. And it has these stories, and the stories are ultimately there to protect us. So those stories, despite the fact that they may feel like they're holding us back, they are trying to keep us safe in a way. So it's also being able to recognize the stories that may be valid and may be justified, and still recognizing that while these stories might be valid and circumstantially things are playing out in the ways that they are, that I am not a victim to it. And I find that that's something that needs to be clarified in terms of surrender, is knowing that surrendering is actually one of the most empowering. It's one of the greatest doorways to step into your power, because you're really choosing to trust in the fact that everything is happening for you, even when it may be uncomfortable and it may be initiating you to step up in certain ways. That is the power. That is the reclaiming of your power. And that's a beautiful way to also soften a bit more in the surrender process of, I'm not softening because I'm giving up and because I'm a victim of what's going on, but I'm softening because I have this deep trust in the ways that this is leading me to exactly where it is I want to go. And also trusting in myself, like trusting in myself to be able to hone in these opportunities to basically, yeah, have self-trust in knowing that whatever comes up, you are able to be adaptable and to be shaped, I guess, be taught how to show up in a different way so that you are more prepared for the outcome that it is that you want. And I feel like this whole reframe of victim and the ego stories, because the ego is so good at making up these stories, it's like that shift from victim to an empowered being, that where that shift isn't actually more control, it's letting go. And so I'm really curious to see how we can kind of bring this doorway in of how these perspective shifts, they actually are letting go of that victim. They're letting go of those stories of suffering and of pain that we all experience, regardless of our level of self-awareness. This is just something that's part of being human. And it's something that we need to learn how to navigate with in this human experience.
I
And you
love
can
that.
love your
Yeah.
stories. You can love your stories of suffering and pain. I love my stories of suffering and pain. Like there's so many of them that I'm not ready to let go of. And that's why like even like being like hearing the word victim, there's like shame that pops up at the same time. Cause I'm like, but like what if I like to be, and then to admit that you like to play the victim, that you like to be in that, that's a whole other place, whole other ballpark. But it's so interesting how that all is happening at the same time.
And then recognizing that, having that awareness. So I think a good one sometimes is yeah, wanting attention. And then how do we show up to get attention, that validation? So that could be through acts that feel a bit more grand, like dancing and singing, or it could be through like, well, I get attention when I'm sick. People care for me when I'm sick. So what story am I going to tell?
Exactly.
And then recognizing that in yourself. Okay, well, where is this coming from? Why am I doing that? Because I want attention. Well, is there anything wrong with wanting attention? No.
No.
Can I love myself for wanting attention? Yes. Can I show myself compassion for wanting attention? Yes. Doesn't everybody want attention? Yes.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
yeah. And then just reframing like that and taking a step back and saying, okay, well, then that's just a human thing. Now, with this knowing, with this sense of looking back in the mirror, and the mirror is so beautiful because, well, we'll go to mirrors later. Hold on. But the
Whole other rabbit
layers.
hole.
But I think so. To your point, Melina, which I so deeply appreciated, from an energetic standpoint, for me, surrendering vibrates like incoherence. It's
Mm.
bringing the brain and the heart into a rhythm, and that can actually be measured by your heart rate. So that's really cool. And then spiritually, as you were speaking to, it's essentially trusting in the divine law. It's knowing that the universe is working for us, not against us. And from a creation perspective, what's so interesting about surrender is when we surrender, when we harness all of that energy, that power, that force that we would otherwise be expelling in controlling and worrying and stressing and manipulating outcomes, suddenly all of that energy is harnessed and it becomes inspiration. It becomes creativity. It allows for flow. And so it's so empowering. It's so
Mhm.
empowering.
Mhm. And I just want to say that some of the best creations that have come through in this world have come from that rock bottom moment
Mm.
where you have no choice but to surrender. You have no choice but to surrender. And that is so beautiful to be able to harness all of that resistance to kind of generally speak on all of these different emotions, to harness all of that resistance and to actually have it grow you, have it teach you something, have it shape you in some way where you're able to create something from it.
Mm,
Even if
Mhm.
that's recreating yourself, recreating maybe a particular story that is coming through or limitation and being able to redefine that. So it's so beautiful to see how so much of the best art has come from these particular moments where people have had to surrender and beautiful, beautiful art has come from it. So yeah, it's definitely a beautiful process when we're able to actually use that energy for something that is serving our forward evolution and our growth and is inspiring a bunch of people in the process of it. Like how beautiful is that to share that alchemy with others and
Mhm.
to hopefully inspire that alchemy in them and so on. And then it just kind of ripples out in the world.
mm. And to remember that it's part of the human experience and that we're not alone in that and that we've chosen this and that this is ultimately our playground. And that these feelings and these emotions and these resistances are just passing over us. They are not us. They're just
Mhm.
passing over us in a moment in time. And if we can just watch it pass over us without attaching a story to it, that it can be transmuted almost instantaneously and turned into beautiful
Mhm.
art and creation.
And to
And
feed
so
off of that, I'd love to just add a quick thing there. Something I had seen that I've been working at bringing in is that instead of saying I am sad or I am angry, anger is passing through me, sadness is passing through me, so that it's not a clinging to that emotion or that feeling and putting it in the body and saying this is a state of being that I am in. It's I'm in flow. This is moving through me because emotion is energy and motion.
mhm.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, to show how far the English language has come in old Celtic rituals and literature, they did not say, "I am sad." They said, "I have sadness on me. I have
Yes, you
anger
have
on
memories.
me. I have happiness on me." so that we don't become attached to these different states of being, but rather just witness them for what they are with reverence. And when we take that step back and witness these feelings with reverence, we become less connected to the emotion as the human experience and more just aware of the range of possibilities.
Mhm.
So I do have a question for those of us that are exploring bringing awareness to these moments or being called to surrender, where we're being faced with these stories that are coming from our mind and our ego, trying to keep us safe, and feeling the emotional uprising of all of these emotions that come through when we're meeting resistance, when we're in these moments where, we're trying to control and that control freak is dying because there is nothing to control. Sometimes there are moments like that where it's like, actually, this is out of my control. And so, in those moments where we're bringing this awareness to that whole experience on an emotional level, on a story level, mental level, how do we meet that? Like, you talk about this instantaneous transmuting of those stories. And for those of us that this might be new and we don't have the practice of doing that, it's something that may take a bit of time to actually get to. So I'm curious, Steph, if you have maybe any advice or any tips for someone that's like really just starting to really meet themselves in this moment, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say show yourself love and compassion.
Yeah.
We were not historically programmed, taught, given the opportunity to learn this from a early age, and it takes time. And we're all human, and sometimes we're able to do it on the spot, and other times it takes a little bit longer depending on the experiences that we're going through, and all of that is perfect. All of that is okay. Really just coming back to that place of loving compassion for the self. But yeah, so reframing, again, like I think the thing with transmuting is to remember that it's not erasing the pain. We are going to have feelings. We are going to feel happy, sad, frustrated, jealous, tired. Um, and the invitation is to really just witness it and just say, I have this on me right now. Not I am sad and tired because da 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 da, but I have this on me right now. And it's actually wild how quickly that feeling will soften once it's seen.
Mm.
So that tightness
Mhm.
in your throat, that weight on your chest, that squeezing in your heart, if you're having, if you're feeling a bit unloved or not loving yourself, um, mm, if you have a rising of a desire to cry, just seeing it and calling it out and giving it a name without creating a story, I think is the first
Mhm.
invitation. And then the more we do that, the more that becomes a new habit for us. So, reframing is definitely how we alchemize energy. So, taking something that feels like a pain or an emotion moving over us and turning it into wisdom. But on an actual neuroscience level, it's super powerful because these acts of witnessing it on us versus taking it and running with it as a story of what's happening to us literally rewires our brain. So every time we choose this higher perspective, this perspective of love and compassion, this perspective of this is the human experience, we strengthen a new neural pathway of safety, trust, and ultimately possibility.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think, I think we brought this up a little bit earlier about like the aspect of bypassing reality. So reframing really isn't about bypassing reality. It's really about just sitting with the feelings and then reauthoring it, realigning with what's happening and creating coherence between what's happening in the body, what's happening in the mind,
Mhm.
and then ultimately knowing that as within, so without. What's happening within us is going to be reflected back to us by the world around us.
Mm.
Mhm.
And that reflection back, this is where things become increasingly, as we could say, maybe more challenging. Because what's being reflected back is aspects of ourselves that are asking to be integrated
Seen.
and seen. through love and compassion. So every trigger that we have is really just an invitation to heal, just to be seen, just to be heard, to be felt with love and compassion, and to be transmuted, just like that. Mm. And as you practice this, as you invite this into your life, it becomes easier and easier. And at the same time, there's still situations where it's difficult with your partner, with your biggest mirrors, your family, your significant others. Mm. With our pets. With our pets as well.
Oh,
The
yes.
triggers are more present, the triggers are more real, and the triggers are pushing things even deeper inside. But nevertheless, it's an invitation to heal.
Mm.
Mm.
I do just want to say that I feel like in this process, it's the yes and.
Mm.
So it's like, it's yes, there's these stories that are playing out, and I would say that the stories are really they live in the mind, and then there's like the emotions that are coming through, which can feel like this soup of just like emotions, and sometimes there's multiple emotions that are being felt at the same time that it's hard sometimes to discern even exactly what they are. It just feels like this overwhelming overcast blanket of just like heavy energy. And it's so interesting when we're in that space is like that can exist and that probably will be there, especially if you haven't been practicing this reframing, but it's the yes and. So it's like, how can that experience be present and also expanding perspective to let me meet my humanness with love and compassion, because
Yeah.
ultimately again it's these are the parts of us that are wanting to be seen, and there may be lessons for us in that process, like sometimes that rock bottom moment may come from a big lesson of I hurt someone, and so that's part of the lesson of I was hurtful to someone else and I'm having to sit with these emotions. And sometimes you want to fix something right away and just have it get to the outcome, get to the outcome where it's fixed and it's good and we're moving on and everything's back to being like high vibe. And in those moments where that's not possible, it's like, okay, well, I can't control this outcome right now, and so because of that, how can I detach from that and just be in the process? And then the being in the process is how can I add this perspective? How can there maybe be both where there is this difficulty as I'm moving through it and meeting myself and meeting the messy, and also understanding that this is a moment for me to learn, and this is a moment for me to meet myself and to have love for the ways that as humans we are all imperfect. And that's even more helpful because our egos can tend to be self-centered sometimes, and we forget that actually, despite the fact that we're all trying to be as conscious and weak as we can and live in our hearts, that we are all human and that we are all learning. We're all here in this earth school, walking each other home, learning these lessons of how to be more in the expression of love. And it's it's really like when we're not able, so what I'm trying to say is when we're not able to reframe immediately, sometimes it's how can we at least hold both? How rather than just like, oh, I felt the emotion and all the heaviness and now I've alchemized it and now that's not present. That might not be the case right away, but how can we have that and also have this other
Mhm.
perspective? And then it's just as much as we can trying to what we are putting our attention on is where our energy is going. So how can we continuously tap into this reframe that we're creating for ourselves? And then it's a matter of strengthening the reframe more than we're strengthening the story of this sucks. And it's the yes and they can both exist. But now how can we practice more of the one until eventually that just kind of becomes there's this neuro wiring that's happening, how that eventually that becomes more second nature. And that's also the humility of this path is that you got to practice it. It's not something that we are born knowing how to do. It's not something that we're taught very young, and it's something that we kind of figure out as we stumble along the way. And that's the humility of being a beginner, and this is a beautiful thing to be a beginner at because it does lead to more surrender, and it does lead to more space to be able to be in the messy and also grow from it, grow from that awareness rather than shaming yourself for having it because it's human. It's
Mm.
human. And I feel like a big part of this is just giving permission for each of us to be human and to have compassion for each other in our humanity.
I'm
Mm.
noticing as you both, like, I agree, but there's also such a huge I've been dissociating so much because I feel like there's a whole step before all of this, like the reframe. There's like the nervous system gets flooded with emotion. And then you go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and then there's no space to actually reframe. There's no actual space to take that witnessing because you're in such a state of survival, especially once you start allowing yourself to feel, because feelings can feel so threatening, especially if they're poking at old wounds. So not only are you feeling what's happening in that moment, you're
Mm.
feeling the threat of the past and the past and the past and all of these things, which inevitably the stories are going to come up in the mind because the mind's going to want to rationalize and make sense of everything. But to honor that, maybe before even trying to reframe, before even trying to bring compassion, just honoring, I'm flooded right now. My nervous
Mhm.
system is flooded. I can't feel anything. I am numb, and being with that before even moving to something next, because I know I
Mhm.
feel the truth as you guys are both speaking, but I'm like, but there's no way I'm there. There's no way, like in this moment, there's no way there's anything going to be reframed right now until I honor the fact that there is literal shutdown. And I
Mhm.
want to just give that for, because I know there's a lot of people that are going to be like, but how? How do you be the bring the compassion, bring all of this when it's not even accessible in the body yet?
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process, and that's the thing too, is that the nervous system, especially again, the nervous system, it has this somatic memory. So there are certain experiences that are triggering these old wounds. And so that is going to intensify the emotions of what's currently here in this moment because of the fact it's like, well, I'm feeling all these emotions. It's like soup of emotions from this experience and also from the same wound that is from the past that is being triggered from this present experience. And the thing is, again, regardless of how conscious we may be, our nervous system is something that we have to train. It's body memory. And when we've grown up having these intense experiences in our lives that or they stay in the body. And this is something that, Steph, we were talking about is that sometimes part of that process is honoring how can I take the best care of myself while I'm in this state of shutdown? Because in that moment, that's the most loving and compassionate thing that you can do is rather than shaming yourself or judging yourself for not being able to immediately go into the reframe and move forward and move on. Again, it's not about the initial situation happening. It's about what's being activated in you from your whole life, from like the past. And that's an opportunity to process those things, to process those triggers from the past so that you can be more liberated in the present. But before that, it's how can I meet myself with compassion and just take the time, take care of myself. And that takes time. That does take time and it looks different for everyone. But yeah, for sure, honoring that part before going on to the next step because it's not even accessible when you're in that state. That's the
Nope.
reality.
Yeah, no, for sure. When the feelings are coming up, I mean, it's completely somatic. It's completely real. It's anchoring yourself in whatever ways you can. If an emotion needs to be expressed, it's like taking a pillow and screaming into it. It's moving the body, it's shaking the body, it's curling up in a ball, it's crying, it's messy, it's
Mhm.
real, it's expression. It's the emotion in motion. It's moving it through, and we have to have to give into that. No longer is it be quiet, go to your room, swallow that. No, it needs
Mm-mm.
to be expressed. And there's a time and a place to express for sure, but it needs to be expressed in whatever way
Yeah.
feels right for you. And it's tapping into that that primal energy and and pushing it out while holding it. It's rocking it and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. And at the same time, like, and this is going to move through me and knowing that it's in motion.
Yep. Mm.
Um, and I think once we have those practices down packed, once we are able to sit with the emotions that are rising in whatever way they're rising, and we have practices to express them and also anchor ourselves back to our breath, then we have the capacity to know what's the next step. Okay, love, compassion, reframing. What is this trying to show me? But you're so right, Megan. No, the emotions have to happen. And
Yeah. And then I'm getting stuck. I'm sorry. I'm getting stuck. What if you don't have that space to do it? What if there's no space to do it and yeah, that's where I'm just like, okay, that's all dandy and great and
Are we talking
lovely.
environment, physical environment, or internal
Environment,
space?
no, in the environment,
Okay.
external space. And yeah, like I'm very much in this space where I'm so lucky to have the space to do that,
Mhm.
but I know a lot of people don't. And then I feel like there's almost this like ickiness of like express, like tell people this could help you, but it's like great, I see how it could, but where could I do this? Because
Mhm.
expression is so shunned and shamed. People's expressions is just shamed. That it's how can we invite people to create spaces if they don't have spaces?
so that really resonates. When I was an adolescent, as I'm sure many of you will resonate with, like there was no opportunity for expression. Any
Yeah.
expression of emotion was another reason to be punished or grounded.
Mhm.
um, I often found myself obsessively brushing my teeth uh, as an outlet. So where do you go when you can't go somewhere? What's really interesting is the science behind journaling. Um,
Mm.
how effective journaling is at releasing and transmuting almost instantaneously. So writing is a really beautiful outlet. So if you feel like in
Beautiful.
that moment, most of us can get into our bed, we can cry, we can scream into
Yeah.
a pillow. I do feel like those are kind of
Yes.
right, and then from those places to anchor ourselves in breath. But what then? How
Yeah.
do we see the light at the end of that emotional flooding tunnel? Journaling is really, really powerful. Surrounding yourselves with friends who are also open to reframing, who are safe spaces, who maybe can just listen, lend an ear without offering any unsolicited advice, just to
Yeah.
receive, just to hold space, I think is another really, really important support system. And um, but I really cannot underscore enough
Yeah.
Mhm.
journaling.
I also wanna add nature. Nature. If you don't have a safe home environment or a space where you live that feels like where you feel like you can really just be in the full expression of whatever emotions are coming through. Oh my god, it's so underrated to just go into a forest and just scream your heart out and just let it out and let yourself really tap into that like primitive element. Because again, like that, our brains are perceiving this current situation as a threat. And despite the fact that it's not going to kill us for the most part, our body is responding to it as if it is, as if we are an immediate threat. And so our nervous system is in this state of fight or flight and shock. And so sometimes one of the most beautiful things to do is tap into that primitive side, tap into that animalistic nature and just let yourself roar, let yourself rage, let yourself be out in a forest. And Megan and I, we would do this all the time when we'd go to the forest and stay in our womb cave and we were tapping into these archetypes. And I find that a really helpful one, at least for myself, is a wild woman archetype. If I'm feeling like I need to let out some really intense emotion, and it's again, rage is not something that is very socially acceptable in our society. Like if I were to go out into my backyard and start raging my heart out, my neighbors would be concerned. They'd be like, this
911?
this
Yeah, my
woman
neighbors are
is
going crazy.
she's in mental distress, in severe mental distress. But, and again, and I have the privilege of having a backyard, but there's still people and again, people that kind of level of expression makes them uncomfortable. And it makes me uncomfortable when I'm expressing it, but it's also recognizing the value of it. And so it's like, let me just give it my all and just be untamed for the sake of discharging. So nature, nature is definitely one of those spaces. Even if it's, I mean, we're in winter season right now, but even in the winter, like just being able to be outside, get that fresh air, be in a space where you can kind of have some privacy and give yourself that opportunity of, I'm going to give myself even 5 minutes, 5 minutes of untamed expression of whatever is here and really just letting yourself discharge. And we're really just complex animals. Like if we look at predator versus prey in the wilds, the prey, after being chased by predator, if it has the capacity to escape, it's these animals, they're shaking their body like viscerally, like there's such a strong discharge of energy from that trauma of being chased that they need to do that to survive, to actually move forward and continue to carry on in their life and meet their needs. So it's interesting how we really are animals, and we're really retraining safety into our nervous system. Where to the mind, like consciously, we're like, I'm not going to die. Like, this is fine. Like, this is just a really shitty moment. And the moment is fleeting. And just like everything, it's impermanent and it'll pass. And the mind may be conscious of that. And the body is acting completely differently. And this is where there's the coherence, right? Like in that space, there's incoherence between the stories of the mind and just what we're seeing, like really in real time, versus what we're feeling. And that's where these outlets for discharging and having these resources, it helps to be able to bring the mind and the body into a bit more coherence of, we've let this like really intense fear and energy to be discharged. Well, now there's a bit more grounding. Like even after you've had a really good cry, have you guys had one of those? Like really good cry. I'm talking like like one of those or like snotty air, all the things. And just like the relief that comes after that, after having that good cry, it's like, oh, okay, that was good. Like those are the things that bring you into that space of relief.
Mm.
And it feels more grounding.
Yeah, yeah. And I think in so many ways, we weren't also taught how to name our emotions either. There are like six
Mm,
core emotions, and then they branch out into all these other emotions. And um, yeah, being able to, and not putting the pressure on yourself to be able to discern between all the emotions, but just to kind of get the core six down. And being able to name those feelings in your body when they're coming up. That level of just witnessing, being like, okay, yeah, like I have sadness on me right now, will start to calm the nervous system because you're not denying a reality. You're connecting. That's
mhm,
creating coherence with the body. You're saying like, okay, I see you. That is sadness. Okay. And then
yeah,
that almost gives yourself permission to then kind of lean into the sadness a bit so that you can transmute it through journaling, through just going and sitting outside with your hands on
mhm,
the earth, grounding, through taking a stroll in the park and just leaning up against the tree with your back on the tree, knowing that Mother Nature is here to hold and support you. Um,
Mhm.
mhm,
the journaling, the journaling is so fascinating because now science has it backed as reducing stress and cortisol. And the act of slow, focused writing regulates breathing and heart rate and actually activates your parasympathetic regulation. So, I don't know if you guys can see it, like it's now winter. So, yes, going
yeah,
outside and maybe sitting on the ground and putting my hands in the ground or walking around barefoot like I always do is not really a possibility. But feeling the emotion, crying, screaming into a pillow, dancing around, and then journaling
Hmm.
mm,
can go a long, long way. And then again, going back to that neuroplasticity, once we get into a bit of a routine of doing that, of reacting and connecting to our emotions in this new expanded way, then that becomes the new way that we regulate, that we self-regulate, that we hold space for ourselves, that we
yeah,
like rock like a baby. I'm trying to think of the word in English, but that we rock ourselves
mhm.
yeah, back into coherence.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I like that.
And I do want to say that in a world of immediate gratification, this is not something that you're going to do this practice and you're going to feel perfect right away.
Mm.
Because, like, I've definitely had those moments where I'm going through, like, some pretty big heartbreak, and there's sadness, and there's grief, and there's anger and disappointment, and all of these emotions that come with they're charged with intensity. And I've sat under a tree, and I've let out a good cry in public, may I also add, because then eventually you get to a point where you're like, "I don't even care about being perceived. I just need to be in this and honor what's here." And, and I've had that good cry and been under the tree and been like, well, I don't feel better. Like, why I'm doing all the things. And like, it comes to the point of like, I've checked it off my list and none of these are making me feel better. And that's also where it's just kind of, having patience with the process and recognizing that, like building any habit, like training any practice, it does take some time. And especially when what's being activated are things that are heavy, like they're lived experiences that may have had a very strong energetic imprint on the body and the soma. And it's also honoring the fact that, yeah, like these are not things that are going to just immediately go away if we're thinking of actually sustainable embodiment and change of how to retrain this new way of being. This is really a new way of being human, is being able to, you know, transmute these things as they come, and honoring our humanity and having patience with the process of this incoherent state between mind and body, and then showing up from this place of love and doing these practices, and then having patience because it takes time. And time is also this other factor that I think is important to bring into the conversation, because we live in a time where if I wanted to get something, I can just get it on my phone and have it come and be shipped to my house tomorrow. It's convenient, it's quick, it's instant. Whereas us as a humans, we are not robots. And that there is a level of patience and training that is required to be in this new way of being. And I think that the most empowering part of all of this is that it's possible. Like, yes, it could feel disempowering to be in the process of retraining and showing up and like not maybe getting the immediate change of state right away. And then the frustration of I'm still in this and why do I still care about this and why does it still affect me and all these things. And then also recognizing that, you know, this is a new way of being, and that it is something that is going to take some practice, and having these resources and support and people you can talk to, it helps catalyze that a little bit more. But having patience with yourself, because this is definitely not something that's like, oop, instant alchemy. I am now not affected by my own humanity, although that would be great. But
Yeah.
it'll be that much worth it when you do get there.
Yeah. So much of what you're saying, I just keep hearing loving compassion with the time, with the process, with the feelings, with the lessons. Just 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 I think if we can all come back to love and compassion for ourselves. I have the most amount of compassion for everybody else. You tell me your stories,
Mm,
I'm like, "Oh my god, girl, like I feel you. I see you. Yes, yes. Give yourself love, give yourself compassion." If people
mhm.
don't get over this like that mirror that we give back to others, that's why sharing these stories and our life experiences and our learnings with others is so valuable, because they often mirror back the love and compassion that we are often incapable of showing ourselves, because we
Mhm.
set those standards so high for ourselves. And so, that brings me to like women and community and connection, you know,
Mhm.
Mm.
how it's so important for our soul's evolution, for our journey back home to ourselves. It's through sisterhood, because sisters hold the most amount of love and compassion. They will remind you that that is the very thing that you are often incapable of giving to yourself.
Mm. I definitely want to jump in here because vulnerability, y'all, I'm dissociated as fuck. And we're going to still post this episode because this is how I'm showing up right now. I'm not hearing anything y'all are really saying at all, because there's that love and compassion. That's the only thing I think I've keyed in the past like 20 minutes. That's not coming for me right now. And that's
Mm.
okay. I'm not going to receive it from myself. I'm not going to give it to myself. So I'm just going to be here and witness. And that's all I have capacity for right now. And I
Mm.
think this is a big part of this process of everything we're talking about,
Mhm.
especially the time. Because even when you said time, I just went in my head. I'm like, fuck the time. I'm fucking tired of the time. I'm tired of all this bullshit. I'm tired of the lessons. I'm tired of the mirrors because everything's a mirror. So I'm tantruming inside internally right now as fuck.
I love it. I
Try
love
wanting
it.
wanting wanting to stay present,
Mhm.
feeling that Megan, you're recording a podcast right now, but this is what's here and this is what it's going to bring up too. And
Mhm.
I hear, in especially in sisterhood, in circles, in it's this. I feel like even just this right now is mirroring a lot of we spent like some time together a month ago, and yes, community connection with sisters in that mirroring and that reflection of where you're not extending yourself love and compassion, and just honoring. Yep, you're right. I'm not, and sitting with that, and that's what's coming up for me right now.
Mm,
Thank you so
mm,
much. And this is one of the things that I feel like I so deeply appreciate about co-creating, being in co-creation with Megan. And babe, I want to celebrate. I genuinely want to celebrate the fact that you could even bring that here because that is part, like, that's literally part of this. Like, that frustration of, like, I'm sick and tired of doing the work and becoming aware and showing up in the practices, and I'm checking them all off and they're not doing
They're all
anything.
done. You
And
want to see my agenda? It's all
oh,
fun.
let's
I've done it all. The embodiment, the crying, the shaking it off, the shaking my
Mhm.
ass, the anger, the crying in the pillow. It's all
mm,
done. It's click, 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 click.
mm.
Yes, keep
Exactly.
going.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that this is all that's also part of this. And like you're there today, I was there 2 days ago. And now today I'm able to show up in this place, but had we recorded this 48 hours ago, I would be where you're at. You know what I mean? So, and that's the thing is honoring the full spectrum. It's honoring the full
Mhm,
spectrum of what it is to be human and
mm,
what it is to have awareness. Have awareness of, I know where I want to be. I know what to do, especially the I know what to do. That's that's the part that does it for me is, when you're in this process of becoming more self-aware, of learning how to hold space for yourself, learning how to support the nervous system, like this is also a big part of both of our work. Well, all of our work actually.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, it's the I know what to do. It's just, it's not happening. It's not happening right now. And that's also part of it. And that's the beauty of being in sister circles. Like you, when you feel like that, that is exactly when you're supposed to go. Like that is exactly the invitation to be held by women that can mirror and reflect that love and compassion to you because then it's not even accessible to you. And even if you're in circle and you're being held and supported for whatever it is that you're moving through that's causing this state of like closure of I can't even that's not even acceptable or like accessible
Yeah.
to me. I sometimes it's even in that it's I can't even receive it from others, and that's okay. But to still be held when you are in that space and not be alone, even if that what's being reflected to you or the love that's being poured into you, it's hard for you to receive. It's knowing that you are worthy of it. It's witnessing the ways that these women are showing up for you. And again, they're not showing up for you so you can, it's not conditional of I'm going to do this so you can tell me how good of a person I am for showing up for you. It's I'm going to show up for you because I'm holding love in this container and for what you're moving through because it's honoring my own humanity too. Like we
Mm.
are all the things that you're experiencing right now. I've experienced a flavor of it or I'm experiencing it right now. It's at a deeper, there's another depth to it.
Mhm.
So these are the moments, especially when it's not accessible for us to give to ourselves, when it's not accessible for us to receive sometimes even just being in an environment where that love and compassion is present
Mhm.
through the natural law of diffusion energetically, which I just made up right now. It
I was
will,
like, I
it will,
don't know.
listen, it's fine. It's a Venusian method. It will eventually, it integrates subconsciously that love and just being in the environment where that energy is present. there will be some things that you will receive from it to the capacity that you can receive it.
Yeah, and it's in that tight, uncomfortable space that that rebirth happens, that actually allows for the expansion. So it can feel really heavy and dense energetically. Um, and that can sometimes reflect back into the world as like taking two steps backwards. Like I was fine 2 days ago, everything was going so perfectly. Now what's happening today? Like a shit's hit the fan, everything's
Of
going
course.
haywire. And it's just it's almost poetic and beautiful. It's your body's way of dissolving things that are no longer serving you so that you can expand to the higher frequency to give yourself the opportunity to feel, move it through the body, let it out to arrive to a higher frequency to then connect with that frequency. So then you in this higher state, in this expanded state, will attract all the things that you actually want. And so I know that goes more into theory and less into somatics, but ultimately it's for the highest good. It's for the highest good of you. And it brings us back to kind of surrender. Surrender. We surrender. This is how I feel right now. And that is perfect for right now because it's showing me what I need to feel. It's making me face certain things. It's giving me rest when I need rest. It's giving you everything that you need right now in this moment. And it's the real trust and surrender is knowing that it's not permanent. This is not a permanent state. Nothing is permanent. Happiness isn't permanent. Sadness isn't permanent. None of it is permanent. It is an ebb and a flow. And when we can accept that as a basic law, we can continue to see the light at the other side of the tunnel. And then that's where our checklists and our protocols and our practices and our, our expansion and our new neural pathways, when they can all come into play. But this will always be the case. This is life. This is the ebb and flow of life.
I want to say, I feel like the most impactful moments of my life, and it's crazy because I could viscerally remember these words, is I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And those are the moments where I've shown up for myself in ways that I never have before. And it took me getting really, really uncomfortable of I can't even bear to live another day in this human experience in the ways that I am in the ways that I am creating it for myself as well. And so that is also powerful. And sometimes for some big shifts to happen, because again, we are creatures of habit. Like our brains, they love the predictable future. Like they love the habituary behaviors. And so sometimes it really takes to get so uncomfortable and to like reach that place of like darkness, because I feel like for me, it's, I don't care. And then it's, no, I can't do this anymore. Like that's my threshold. And when I get to the, I can't even exist in this reality anymore. That is what has sparked spontaneous and big changes in my life. And then again, it's obviously sustaining them, but that discomfort has been that initial just kind of like punch in the face that I needed to create some like very powerful and empowering changes that needed to happen. And I do want to also, Steph, while we have you here, and you've already mentioned it, is the idea of divine law. And so I do want to ask you, what does divine law mean to you, and how has aligning with it brought you into deeper liberation and surrender in your path?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, Divine law initially felt very much like a step by step from a book at first. Okay, there are laws that supersede man made laws, that there's energies that govern, a bit like when you're in ninth grade and you start with physics, you're like, okay, there's stuff happening behind the scenes. Um, and it's expanded from there to accepting that there's this invisible architecture of life, and that there's an intelligence and a oneness and a wholeness that moves through everything. And so for me, trusting in the divine laws and aligning with the divine laws means really going with the flow rather than forcing anything, knowing that there's a rhythm, that there's a timing to all things, that there's a season for everything. And trusting that the divine laws, unlike the man made laws, are without ego, that they work for the betterance of everyone. And so by leaning into this alignment, I just, yeah, like I feel like deeply like liberated, and it's the root of my faith and my trust to not feel like I have to struggle against life, but rather just kind of show up for whatever's happening in that moment in the best way that I can, however I can.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel like that belief is also what supports the surrender. It's the trusting in the fact that you are being held and you are being supported and that things are orchestrating for you, despite the fact that they may be difficult lessons, uncomfortable lessons, and honoring that. And I feel like something that was super powerful that you shared with me was, in the moments that I was sharing just challenging lessons that were coming through in real time when we were connected, you would just always bring me back to this honoring. Like, how can we honor even this discomfort? Like, how is that discomfort still sacred? And that reframed something in me where it allowed me to just be more open in moments that I was going through discomfort or meeting resistance, because I'm like, "Oh, right, right. I can either like resist it and be like, oh, I hate this. This feels so shit. What's the point of feeling this? Why do I feel like, why am I feeling this way when I'm feeling it over this thing that doesn't even actually matter in the grand scheme of things?" But it's when I'm able to honor it and see it as sacred, there's more of a curiosity, there's more of an openness, and that's where, I find that that's a beautiful way. It's a doorway in of like, "Oof, I don't like this, but it is still sacred, and how can I honor it and what it's teaching me or what it's showing in me?"
Mm.
And, yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that perspective. Yeah, thank you, Steph.
Yeah, I think it's really just remembering that where we put our what we put our focus on is what grows and what
Mhm,
moves. And so in a moment when we're having an emotion arise, for example, to put your focus on that emotion and just see it, it will allow it to move rather than, yeah, rather than focusing on a story that is not serving. Let's focus on the emotion, let's focus on the feeling, let's focus on what's coming up right now in that moment and what it means to be human and what it means to be living in the body. And I think that is kind of a divine law at the end of the day as well. It's um it's a divine law that we're human. It's a divine law that we're here to experience. It's a divine law that everything is messy. It's a divine law that what we focus on is what we attract. Um yeah.
mm.
Something else was coming to me while I was saying that. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Mm. So, I I feel like we are nearing the end of our conversation, and one thing that we've been prompting any of our guest speakers to share is, I mean, with Venusian Womb, the entire foundation of what we're creating here is opening up this dream field, opening up this quantum field where there is infinite possibilities to dream what it is that you are aligning with in your reality of what it is that you want to bring forward through creation, through co-creation, through connection. And I mean, with all that being said, I did want to ask Steph, and I know Megan, we've been curious to see, like, what is a dream that you are currently manifesting into the world and that you are connecting to within the dream field?
Yeah. Wow. I think one thing is definitely the soul's haven and creating a space where people can come and connect in their truth, whatever that looks like. Aligning with that dream has meant saying goodbye to so many other identities, so many other things that I thought I was supposed to do, where I was supposed to be in life. It meant ultimately surrendering and following my heart and really leading from a place of heart, which has required deep, deep trust, deep, deep, deep trust. So if it feels good in the body and it resonates, trusting that that's the direction that I meant to go in. And when other things crumble away, leaning into the fact that they served me while they did. And by them dissolving, it creates space for something new. So yeah, so what I'm leaning into right now is a trust in myself and a trust in the belief that we're meant to come together. We're not meant to be alone. We are meant to be one with community. We are meant to be one with each other. We are one with each other, but that's a whole other podcast conversation. Uh, so yeah, so that's what I'm creating right now, and co-creating really, because every immersion, every experience, every retreat, it's a bunch of souls coming together, creating a beautiful sacred container of exchange, of freedom, of trust, of surrender, of what it means to be human, and so yeah, so that's kind of the dream right now. And in terms of honoring myself and recognizing myself and going into places that have felt really uncomfortable, it's kind of owning the role of being a facilitator as well. Um, Not taking that shy kind of backseat and saying, I am just this, but that I should follow my heart, and if it feels good and it feels right, that it's okay to lean into it, without judging myself, or having crazy expectations for myself, and just to go with the flow of yeah, what the world is reflecting back to me. And right now that's yeah, it's holding space and it's facilitating spaces.
Mm.
It's really beautiful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steph, for sharing and also for just the perspective that you've shared with each of us, the ways that you've held us to get curious about life, about our personal initiations and experiences. And it was just so incredibly powerful to be in your presence and to be held by you and to be held by your space and just witnessing the ways that you are bringing this dream of yours into fruition and being able to just experience even just like a little bit of it was so incredibly healing. And yeah, we are so grateful for this connection, for this conversation, for the perspective that you bring. And I mean, really, I think the invitation from this conversation for us and for everyone listening is to just really continue to put this into practice, to put into practice, to recognize that this is a new way of being, to recognize that there is light and there is darkness in this world. There are injustices that are happening, and there is also a whole lot of love and hope that is moving through the collective, through all of us. And that, while we may not be able to control the state of the world, we can control our own state of being. And it's not even about controlling, it's really just how can we become more aware? How can we become more empowered? How can we become more connected to our heart, bringing more coherence between the mind and the body, and bringing more love and compassion into our day to day, to ourselves, to others. And it's going to be messy. It's going to look messy, but I mean, that could still be the intention, and honoring that intention in whatever ways it actually unfolds, and recognizing that you know, our soul's haven, like this haven, this sanctuary, this frequency is something that we are able to create within ourselves, wherever we are. Like we are the haven. And so it's just kind of like when the world is seemingly scary and confusing, it's how can we kind of create this space of home and sanctity within ourselves. And it's a practice. It's a practice, and I think that we've laid out some very helpful resources and just some guidance of how to go about doing that, and recognizing that it's helpful. It's helpful to have all these things that we spoke about, and also community. How can we now begin to really hone in this state of being with community? And who are the people that are also coming into the state of being, and surrounding yourself with those kinds of people, because that's also frequency, energy, it's contagious. And so when we are able to put ourselves also in spaces and be held by people that are able to resonate as well with this and this truth and this love and
Mhm.
compassion, it makes it more accessible. And then the more accessible we make it, the more that it becomes just our way of being. And so this is how we are also co-creating our reality, and recognizing that there's all the things, like it's a full spectrum out in this world, but what are we really connecting to and creating from? So
Mm.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And if there's anything, Megan, that you'd like to add.
Well, I'd love to add that if anyone would like to reach Steph, we're going to have in our show notes in the podcast description how you can get in touch with her, a little bit, her little description. We also want to thank you all for listening, for tuning in on this Friday or whatever time of the week you're listening. Go check out our website where we have our womb circles that are posted. We have some blog posts, the transcripts for the episodes, and we'll see you next Friday.
Yay! Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for joining us inside the Venusian womb. If this episode spoke to something within you, we'd be so grateful if you left us a review or rating. It truly helps our podcast grow and reach more beautiful souls who are on this journey of becoming.
You can also share this episode with someone who may resonate with this message. Sometimes the right words arrive exactly when needed the most. Remember, growth takes time, and everything you're becoming is unfolding exactly as it's meant to.
May this Venusian code activate the Venusian energy within you. Until next time, take a breath, trust the timing, and keep tending to the dream within.
With love, Milena and Megan.